So Dad, why do you think Gillian hired a gardener?
I think she needed a hand. It was in a pretty poor state. There was lots of rubbish around in the garden, so there was multiple trips to the skips to even find the soil before we could actually start gardening. She said every plant deserves to thrive. So, at the beginning I wasn't even allowed to remove any nettles. Over the years we got to know each other, and Gillian got to know me, got to hear stories of the family and how all the kids were growing up. So yeah, it became a lot better, and a lot of trust was built up over the years. A couple of times I would come and she wouldn't answer the door, and then she would eventually come to the door, and she really wasn't quite so well, I don't think. And then she asked me, could I do a little bit more in and around the garden? And at that point I kind of thought, I think she's just wanting company. I think our relationship really developed probably the last year of our life, when she started to suffer a little bit more. We used to sit more on the bench here and have coffee together and just chat. But yeah, it's great to actually spend time with someone that's a completely different generation to you. And then being given the opportunity to go into the attic and actually realise everything that she has been talking about and come face to face with the relatives. I found that completely fascinating. I came in and spoke to Gillian, and she said, I've got something to tell you. And I was like, okay. She said, I'm not meant to tell you. I'm like, all right, don't tell me then. She said, I'm so excited to tell you. I said, oh, Gillian, what is it? And she said, I'm going to leave you the house. he's not looking towards the camera at all. I think if they'd seen a camera at that time in 1906, they would play up to it or recognise it was there, but none of them seemed to be interested.
I mean, there were just some rooms that you couldn't see the window. You know, we sort of had our arty piles, our charity shop piles, and then our don't know what this is, might be something worth keeping, it might be of interest piles. Dad's piles of those were this big, mine were smaller, so he would go back through my piles and put more in the of historical interest pile, which is fine. So we went through every single box, and Dad kept 95% of it.
So, if you had to get the shortest summary possible, what does Stephen do in the attic?
I think he goes up with all good intentions, I do, but then, you know, you'll come up, maybe take a cup of tea up, you'll never believe this, look at this! Like, but what have you sorted? Oh no, well no, actually no, I found this, and I'm trying to encourage your dad to get to the point where we have things that are meaningful that we can carry on working through. You know, the slides are there, that's not really been touched. The books I've actually sorted twice and boxed and labelled and indexed on an Excel spreadsheet.
Right. This is Julian's great-grandfather, who is Alexander Neil Somerville, Reverend James Ewing Somerville. This is Julian's grandfather.
You could show us the scroll.
Oh, yeah, I can show you the scroll. James, the sixth Lord, succeeded in 1550. Eliza Patterson. So, we're now about 1730. I have a date here, 1679. This is in James Ewing Somerville's handwriting. Yeah.
So you've read so much of his handwriting, you know?
I know this is his handwriting, yeah. Because I've been reading his two diaries for the last 5 or 6 years. It would be nice to get some of Gillian's screen prints shown somewhere or exhibited. You know, Gillian made these screen prints and made tea towels, handkerchiefs, all sorts of screen prints. But it's been a real insight to their life in this house. And now that we're in the same house living our life, you know, and we've got our stuff in that part of the attic, but it's still 3/4 of Gillian's family stuff. And, you know, that's where Mum gets a bit frustrated.
Do you feel like at some points the house and kind of his obsession with this stuff has stood between you guys a wee bit?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think his reluctance to sort of move a bit quicker with it.
The body of David Macbeath, guard of the lost train, was found about 300 yards east of the second broken pier on the south side. His eyes were fixed and staring, and his features were firmly set, as if he had met with an instantaneous death. The exact time of the accident happened is shown by his watch, which had stopped at 15 minutes, 15 seconds past 7.
For him, maybe more, you know, he just, whether it's been a true family home, I don't know. You know, there's too much involved, I think, for that.
I think there's been a heavy weight on my shoulders to try and do the right thing all the time. I am aware of that. You know, we attend the graves as well. I think I'll always do that. I think I'll always make sure they're nice and tidy. We've got to put in some bulbs this month. But it's quite a nice thing to go and visit them. But, you know, it brings it to life. You know, when I'm standing in front of the headstones and then I actually can come up the attic and I can see all the people.
How about the idea that this is going to be someone else's one day?
Yeah, I find that quite hard. I would find that very hard, and I've always said I'll be very emotional when I have to go from here.
How do you feel about having to move out?
Fine. Mike came.
Yes, yeah. Really nice guy.
Lovely, isn't he?
Yeah. He said he's been here 3 times and that's the
Yeah.
first I've met him.
Yeah, I know.
We had some of the slides of Egypt on the screen.
If in a fire, I would save the Prince and Gillian's
Designs.
designs. What would you save?
I don't think you could practically get all of that out.
Well, mine's
time.
in a big box, so I would just shove it down the steps.
The theory of how you get it out is not
Yeah,
important.
no, but it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
I
the
know.
meaning of it.
Yeah, I know.
What's the time frame looking like? When would you like to move?
I could go after the flowering period of the rhododendrons. I think probably summertime next year. I'd like to see them flower once more.
Well, I think you'll have this big void.
I don't know. I put my whole heart into this house to bring it back, and it was very emotional for me to do it. It was physically draining, but emotionally draining, and it'll be the same when I go. I'll have a huge lump in my throat when I go from here. But as long as you know what you're going to, it makes it easier.